This is the Lifestyle Builders Podcast, Show 44, Behind the Scenes, a Lifestyle Builders Q&A. Are you dreaming of a life of financial freedom and more time to spend with your loved ones? Want to build your business to support that dream? You need Lifestyle Builders, a mentorship program designed to meet you where you are and give you strategic and custom guidance so you can build the business you need for the life you crave. Become a lifestyle builder at joinlifestylebuilders.com.
All right, so we wanted to change things up a little bit this week, and normally we do Q&As from you guys, our listeners, but we actually do a weekly Q&A inside our Lifestyle Builders mentorship program.
Yep.
And
We've
one
been
of the
having
things,
some pretty awesome Q&As lately.
yeah, lots of good ones. And so one of the things we talked about, and we talked to our members, like, oh yeah, go ahead. We're like, what if we just play and kind of give you guys a little bit of behind the scenes of what happens and what do you get if you become a lifestyle builder? So this is, I think it's about 90 minutes. So what we're going to do is actually break it up into two different sections. So we'll do half of it in this episode, and then the next episode we'll do the second half. But, I love doing these because we just get so many random questions.
Yep.
But two, what's really cool about this is that you get to hear what other business owners are asking, as well as a little bit of the advice and what it's like to be a lifestyle builder and what we can do, if and when you guys join.
And I think you're really going to enjoy just the variety of questions we have. This is real, so, we often break out laughing in the middle of these, or, we're calling out to people as they're jumping on and joining, and everyone really has a good time with it, which I love.
Yep. So with that, enjoy the show.
Hey, everybody. We're here for Q&A. Whoop, whoop. We will obviously go through all the questions. I'm going to attempt to let Tom read. We'll see how he does. We might swap spots here.
I was going to say, I hit about a kindergarten reading level. Our daughter gets to first grade next year. I'm going to be in trouble.
He just does not, his eyes do not do well when he's trying to read things quickly.
I basically just skip to like every 10th word.
Which doesn't always work the best. All right.
Our daughter calls me out too. She's like, Daddy, you missed this word.
Can't do that for much longer.
All right, so first up we got Sherry. And by the way, if you're on live, let us know. We'll answer your question right away. Otherwise, we're going to go through the list of predetermined ones.
Yep.
But given that nobody's on at this point, you guys did not hear that.
I know Lisa said she's got the kids set to go, so she was waiting and she was going to listen in. So hopefully we'll see Lisa pop up.
All right, so Sherry says, here's a fun one. Almost every Facebook group now uses questions as a screener to get in the group. I'm looking at some of the very niche groups because I want to see if my ideal client is hanging out in there. So how do I honestly answer the question, why do you want to join this group? To connect with others. My intentions are not spammy, but I am the only one sometimes freaks, but am I the only one that sometimes freaks out? I don't know if you're the only one, but I would say don't freak out.
Yeah. I think it is a kind of like a thought in the back of your mind, like, oh, I'm trying to find my ideal clients, but you're not doing it in a spammy way. You're trying to find them so that you can figure out how to best support them. And I think, yeah, like as you put, just connecting with others, finding new entrepreneurs to connect with, anything like that, creating new relationships with people, they can't really blame you for putting that. That's what you are there to do.
Well, most group owners are using that just to screen out people that are going to spam.
Yep.
So, like what I usually say is, connecting with others, picking up new ideas, and, seeing how I can support people.
Yep. Finding other people to network with.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably not going to get denied. Most people want people in their group, so they're just looking like, are you a real person?
Yep. All right. We got a couple people live. Lisa, Monique, Brandy, and Naja. Hello, ladies.
We're going to jump. If you guys are live, leave your questions below, or if you've submitted one, we'll jump down to it.
We've got, are you skipping ahead?
We'll skip Megan. We'll skip
Megan.
Megan.
See? Can't read.
Yeah, see. All right, Naja. So Naja says, how much of a website do I really need right now? Simple page with contact info and services, or a minimum number of pages? So Naja, since you're here, first question for you is, what is your sales and marketing strategy, and who are you planning to target? And while you're answering that, I will tell you why I'm asking. Most people, an unpopular opinion that I tend to have is that most people don't need a website. And if you need a website, you probably don't need it right away, and it doesn't have to be as comprehensive as you think it does.
Yep. Example, our first Tom and Ariana website was one page.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. So if your sales and marketing strategy is heavily dependent on people going to your website, that's a different story. But what most people do wrong, at least, for my opinion, they spend too much on their website. They create a beautiful website. They put all this stuff on there, but it's not a core piece of their sales and marketing strategy. And oftentimes when people create a website, what they do is they create it with the intention of having it really be a long-term thing. So for example, if you're creating content, content is a long-term game. And where most people struggle is that they go and they want to make sales, but then the sales and marketing strategy they have, like if it's content creation or whatever else, is a longer-term thing, and they don't end up making sales in the short term to then be able to benefit from that. So
she says, I've always worked off referrals, which is why I'm asking.
Okay, so here'd be my recommendation. If you're going to have a website, make it a one-page website with the basic information. Headline would be maybe a picture of you or something that kind of depends on if you're branding it around yourself or your company. But basically, quick banner, here's who you are and who you help, so someone lands it, they know right away. A little bit of info, and then I would give call to action.
Yep.
So if
like
that's
a discovery call,
if that's getting them on the phone, if that's then having them step into, whatever the next thing is. But I would have it on one page, and then what most website builders will allow you to do is you can actually create your menu at the top, but your menu just scrolls down to the section of that page.
Yep.
So that way you're not spending a lot of time on it, but it's satisfying the need that you have.
Yeah, she said, I will be starting to cold network, and I feel like maybe I need something to point them to. I mean, if you're starting to cold network, if you're doing stuff on like LinkedIn, you don't really have to have a ton, but like Tom said, if you have that one page, you're kind of hitting on all of the things that they need to know. You're having people kind of self-identify with if they're fitting in with what you're offering or not, just by giving them that quick information. And then you're giving them something to contact you, which I think is the biggest thing. Obviously, if you're contacting them through another platform, they can contact you there, but you want to ultimately have somewhere to say, if you're interested and want to set up a call, go ahead and click here to do that.
So here's my LinkedIn strategy. I do direct people to our website, but I'll get there. So LinkedIn strategy comes twofold. One, I'm connecting with people that I believe are ideal clients. So every day I'm connecting with a new set of people. When I connect with people, I send them an intro message, basically asking them how I can help them and then providing a couple ways that I can. So I'm warming them up right there. The way my website or content comes in is if they come back with something and we have a piece of content that will help them, I'll share it with them. But ultimately through LinkedIn, what I'm looking to do is just communicate with them and then get them on a 15-minute call to then talk, understand more about what they're doing, and see if I can help them. If I can't help them, I'll direct them somewhere else. So for the example, the other day, somebody wanted help with real estate investing. Now, we could do that, but it's not our core focus right now. So I've actually partnered with somebody else who's really good with real estate investing and has a great course. So now we refer people over there. It ends up helping those people out, and then we get a referral fee on it. But ultimately, I want to get them on a phone call, and I think for you, it's going to be the same way. Reach out to those people, get connected with them, see what their challenges are, and see if you can get them on a phone call.
Yeah, and you did you put that template up anywhere for your what you ask and what you talk about on your intro calls with people?
I don't think we ever put it up, but I will.
Because I think that would help everyone just to get an idea of like what are the things you want to cover when you're talking to somebody that's a cold lead from somewhere, so that you're making sure you move through kind of your agenda of the call.
Yeah, so we'll hit on that quick. I know it wasn't directly the question, but and then I'll put the form up. So what I look at when I get on a quick 15-minute call with people is 6 basic questions. So why now? What's going on in your life that is making this a concern? Because I want to see right away, is somebody going to take action and they need this to happen? Or is this like a nice thing, but maybe not right now? It could be in the future. Second question, why me? What was it that had that person wanting to talk to me? Because part of this too is I see how much they know about me. And, if somebody says, I don't know, you just reached out on LinkedIn, I figured we'd do a call. They're probably not going to be a prime prospect. But if somebody says, Tom, I've been following you guys for 2 years. Actually, this came up the other day. Been following you guys for 2 years. Reached out before, but I thought I had everything under control. Now I'm kind of running out of money, and I might have to go back to my job. I only have 3 months left. I realize I can't do it on my own, and I'm looking for help. So that person is, I know right away, going to be a much stronger candidate, somebody that might be a client.
She said most people that reach out to her know her through someone else that she's worked with.
Perfect. That's a lot of what it is for us too. the shift when you get onto LinkedIn where you're reaching out to a colder network is you got to get better at warming people up quick to get them on a call. Because a lot of people that we initially worked with knew us, but now as I'm getting into more new people on LinkedIn, I've had to kind of tweak some of my messaging to help out with that.
Yeah.
But then ultimately, the other couple questions on a call, all right, where is it that they want to go? What do they want to achieve? Where are they at now? And what do they think the gap is? What do they think they need help with? So I get through all of those questions in 15 minutes. And then at the end of it, I can either say, I think I can help you. Let's schedule a 60-minute call and we'll dive deeper. And then that's when I look to help them with a strategy. And then, you know, if it's right, give them the offer. Or I direct them to something else.
Yeah.
So going back to the website, I don't think you really need a website. If you want to put one up, I would say a one-page website. And I would say your call to action is to schedule time on your calendar to chat with you.
Yep.
Did we cover everything there?
I think you did.
Okay,
I think
sweet.
so. All right. And I know Monique is on live as well if you want to jump
sweet.
to hers.
Yep. So Monique says, when you have several product ideas, how do you know which one to work on next? How do you validate your idea and know that people want it? Don't just tell me to ask in a survey, LOL. I have a survey where I ask the biggest struggles and they keep telling me that they don't have enough time to do all the organization problems. I need more direction and the next best step to take in product creation. I have 3 product ideas and I need to know what to work on next. All right. So a survey would be a really good response.
I knew he was going to do that.
No, but here's what I look at.
Surveys are tough. Surveys are really tough to get that information from.
Well, your first step whenever you do anything, a survey is a good first step, I'm going to be honest. But just doing research, like where do people hang out? If it's a Facebook group, if they buy a certain book or if they go to a certain conference, that's going to give you the initial information, which you already have. What I would recommend for your next step, anybody that's responded to that survey or anybody that you think this would benefit, talk to them.
Yep. Reach out and see if they'll get on a phone call with you.
Yep. And basically the way I would frame this is, hey, you know, thanks for responding to that survey. I'm getting a lot of people that are talking about this issue. I'm thinking about putting something together to help you guys with this. But before I do it, I want to make sure that I understand what the problem is and that, you know, this is worth it for me to put my time into it and it's really going to help you guys out. Most people will jump on a call with you that way.
And those we usually do just 15 minutes.
Yeah,
so if you're not taking like a half hour of their time, just a really quick 15-minute call for you to dive deeper into that problem and see if what you want to offer is really going to help them solve that. What if we didn't collect contact info with that survey?
Okay. So obviously, if you don't have the contact info, you can't reach back out to those people. If you do have contact info for anyone, I would start with them. Even if you don't have the contact info,
can you see who clicked on the survey link?
I was going to say, you could probably figure out who are the warmer people in your audience.
Mm-hmm.
They might have clicked on a link. They might have responded to an email in the past. They might even just be opening your emails. So start with those people because they clearly like your content and they probably have a similar issue.
Yeah. And then even if you haven't collected that info with the survey itself, one thing you can do is reach back out and say, hey, you know, we got a ton of great responses.
Correct.
When we sent the survey. We really want to dive deeper into these issues that you guys are bringing up. So we would love if you would jump on a 15-minute call with us and give them the link to book the call. You might not have as many people click and book, but if somebody filled out the survey and then you're following up and saying, hey, can I find out more about this problem that you told me about and so that I can create something to help you, a lot of people will book a call with you, especially if it's no strings attached. I just want to ask you some questions for 15 minutes.
Well, and so here's another. So one option is like what we just said, just get them on a call. Another option is to basically let them know that there's an opportunity and build some of this FOMO, like fear of missing out, into it. So one of my colleagues right now actually did something like this. He said, hey, we've got this big project going on around this thing. Only going to have a handful of beta testers, but I'm going to help them get this result. If you guys are interested, let me know and we'll see if we can get you into the beta. He had a whole bunch of responses to that because people wanted that result that he was talking about, and they basically raised their hand and said they were interested in it.
Yep.
So there's different strategies you can use, but the whole point here is you're looking to say, who are the people that are interested in this? And I want them to raise their hand. They might raise their hand by clicking an email, by responding to you, whatever means that you can use for that.
Yeah, and we actually talked a little bit about having those calls on the strategy call last week, because we were talking about like the idea validation, or not Nick, Rick, rhyming names.
Yep.
He was doing kind of some idea validation right on the call, and we were talking through some things. So there is a specific kind of format that you can use to those calls too, so that you're getting the most out of speaking to those people in person. And I'm trying to think, it's in the portal if you want to go, and I don't know what the timestamp was though. I'll see if I can find it so you can skip ahead to Rick's portion. But you just want to make sure when you're doing those calls that you're kind of guiding people through them, and you're not just asking open-ended questions where people can just kind of take it anywhere. You want to make sure that you're kind of staying on track with that original pain point or problem or set of problems, Lisa. Hashtag hates calls. And kind of make sure that you're guiding the conversation in sort of the direction that you think it's going to go. And most of the time it will. Sometimes you'll have one that goes like way off in the opposite direction. And in that case, it might just be kind of an oddball.
Yeah. Well, and so if you haven't seen it yet, we have the whole course inside the training portal called Concept to Cash. And that course, like basically the way we do idea validation is by filling out a one-page plan called a lean canvas. And basically, you probably already have the information that you need to fill this out. It's basically saying, these are the problems I think people have because they've told me. This is the solution that I'm thinking of creating. And then part of what you're really trying to do is to validate those things. Mm-hmm. So is this something that people are going to pay for? How much do I think they'll pay for it? So that course really walks through that entire process, including those phone calls.
Well, and I know you said you have multiple products. So one of the best things to do when you can't decide on which one is to take that lean canvas and fill it out for each of those products. The first thing that's going to do is show you which one of them has the most information that you can fill out on the lean canvas, which is probably going to be the one you're most likely to choose. And then it's also going to show you, as you start talking to people, you can kind of fill in more of those boxes for each of the products. And that's hopefully going to give you like your number one product to choose. If you have more than one product that seems popular, you just choose one and go with it for now, and then you know that that next one is going to be the next one you go to after that.
Yeah, and so the criteria that I look at whenever we're evaluating that is what is it that people need? Is one product in demand more than another? What are people going to pay for and how much? So I want to see how quickly can we get back to break even and being profitable. So if something's going to take a lot longer, I'm usually going to put that down in the ranking. I want to look at what is it that I'm good at or that I can create, or I have the ability to have somebody else create for me. Mm-hmm. And then I also look at, does this tie into the overall goals that I have? Because sometimes we'll have a great idea, but it's actually going to take us down a side tangent rather than taking us directly to our goals.
Yep.
So by evaluating it really based on those different categories, then you can figure out, okay, this one seems like people really want it, but they're not willing to pay for it. Okay, well, we're going to drop that down. This one seems like, I'm good at it, or we can create it. I'm not sure if people want it, so that's the thing I got to figure out. But just evaluating it that way, well, then it lets you stack your ideas side by side and basically say, okay, which one seems like it has the best potential, and that's the one you can go forward with.
Yep. All right, I see. Oh, Kirsty's on, and Brandy. Hello. We got all the ladies today. I'm loving it. All right.
So one more thing. I know you said you don't want to hear more about surveys, but if you're going to do anything with surveys, I'd highly recommend getting the book Ask, because basically it takes you through the entire process of not just having a survey, but building a survey that then takes people down the journey and eventually will get them to buy. So we're actually going to be doing more of this going forward. So I'll leave a copy or a link to the book in there. But I actually just bought a course on this, and it's going to be one of the things we'll implement in the future as well.
All right. We've got a live question from Jennifer. I think she posted it up there, and I totally didn't copy it. So thank you for reposting. I'm totally not clear on my question. It's twofold. Could you please talk to how you create content for social media and your strategy behind that? And do you believe in schedules for posting? So as far as how we create content for social, everything we do is kind of based off of the pillar content that we've chosen for our brand and for our audience, which all relates back to the pain points and all of the things that we often hear people talking about and struggling with kind of along the journey. So I think you posted it somewhere. We have a sheet, a template that we had filled out with each of those kind of topic areas for what our pillar content is going to be in our Tom and Ariana Lifestyle Builders brand. So as we build out content, everything we do, we want to relate back to those pillar topic areas. So all of the blog posts that we currently have on the site, which you'll notice we don't have a ton of blog posts. We've only written 3.
Yep, only a couple.
We have 3. And then as we build out podcast topics, all of the podcast topics fit somehow into one of those pillar content areas. And then everything we do on social is usually all related back to either the blog posts or the podcasts, anything to do with kind of daily life, because obviously we've got a lot of things going on, and that's what a lot of people kind of connect to us with and relate back to us with, is like building the businesses and having the kids. So all of our social media content is kind of letting people know about the podcast, sharing the blog post, sharing the life stories and how it relates back to the business, and kind of anything that's those pillar topic areas.
Yeah, so the 2 things we look at is, 1, those pillar or cornerstone or core topics. So for us, for example,
you pulled it up.
Yeah, so clarity and focus is one of our main ones. Our main piece of content for that is our plan with purpose. We have the free course, which is our opt-in, and we have our blog post.
Humongously
like 10,000
long
words.
blog post that Tom wrote.
And then we also did a podcast episode on this. Our next one is freedom. So we have Find Your Freedom. That's our main, once again, 10,000 word blog post. We also did a podcast episode on this. Starting a business. So that's concept to cash. So we have our course on that. And then we've done some of our podcast episodes around like idea validation. We have how do you grow and fix your business.
And you're going to be writing a blog post on that.
Correct.
At some point.
Life hacks. So how do you do the integration between like life and business and all the stuff that we use. And then mindset. So those are kind of the main clusters of content that we create. We then look to create kind of a core piece of, if somebody needs this, we send them there. And then all of our other content relates or ties back into one of those. So when we plan on our podcast, when we plan on everything else, it's around one of those areas. And I actually want to jump back to Naja earlier when we were talking about the website. There's 2 main things that we look at. One is your customer journey. And I don't know, you weren't in Lifestyle Builders when we talked about this before. We'll link up to where we did a session on it, but we're actually going to revamp that and give you guys a lot more to it. Essentially, your customer journey basically says, okay, initially somebody is unaware of you and they may be unaware of the problem or opportunity that they have. And so at some point they become aware of that and they become aware of you. Then there's going to be a process where they go from that to ultimately becoming a customer and then hopefully becoming a raving fan. So if you think about it, all of you guys went through a certain journey with us. At some point you became aware of us through a podcast, through meeting us, through joining our Facebook group. And then there was a series of interactions that we had with you. Either you got an email and you really liked the email newsletter, or you listened to a podcast episode that really hit the mark, or we closed the Facebook group and you're like, I got to get in because this is my time to get in. Whatever that was, you each kind of took a path to get here today. And what you guys all want to figure out is, for your potential customers, what does that journey look like? How do they first become aware of you? And then what are the steps that they have to go through to ultimately become a customer of yours? So if you map out that journey, then all of the content you create is to take people from one step of the journey to the next step.
Yeah.
Right? So this is where most people get content wrong, where they're just creating content that they like or they think people need, but it's not intentional to say, all right, this person isn't aware of me or isn't aware of the problem they have. So on my first interaction with them, I'm going to educate them on that. You know, hey, did you know that YouTube is the most searched platform in the world? If you're not on YouTube, then, you know, you're missing out on opportunity, whatever that is. But you want to raise that awareness to them and then show that you have some expertise on that. And be like, oh, I didn't know that. You know, is there anything that I should be looking at or doing? And then it's like, oh, well, here's a piece of content that will educate you on that and kind of take you to the next step. So now that they're aware of that, it's like, okay, well, how do I get started on YouTube? So maybe that's your next offer or, you know, your next piece of content. But whenever you're creating content, you want it to be very intentional to move people along that path.
Yeah. And then as far as scheduling, the content itself, I usually try to kind of split things to where it makes the most sense. So our podcasts are obviously scheduled. The show notes page that goes with the podcast is scheduled. The sharing the podcast to social media is scheduled. So all of those things that we they're consistent and they're always going to be things that we're sharing. Those are all things that we schedule natively via Facebook. And then we kind of do the other social media. We don't have a specific schedule. I am among the thought of it doesn't make sense to just constantly be sharing content unless that content makes sense and is directing people back to things. So, and it also depends on the platform. Certain platforms, yep, you're going to want to post more than usual, whereas other ones, maybe you only have to post a couple times a week. It depends on how much of your audience is on that platform and how much they're going to see it. So like LinkedIn, Tom posts something every single day.
Once a day.
Then you've got Instagram, where most people will tell you got to be posting multiple times a day. I don't know how many of you are on Twitter, but Twitter's another multiple times a day, yep, like multiple times a day. And then Facebook, it's dependent on where you're posting that content, because a page is now getting less eyeballs in front of it unless you've got some really, really well-foundationed organic content and your stuff is showing up in people's news feeds already, in which case your business page, you can post stuff whenever you want. If you're not getting a lot of eyeballs, you've got to be really strategic with your page about what you're posting and making sure that you are getting engagement so that as you keep posting, people are seeing your stuff. If it's in a Facebook group, same sort of deal. You have to make sure that you're getting engagement on the posts that you have in the group so that Facebook keeps showing people in your group your posts. The whole scheduling piece, I know there's a lot of people out there are trying to figure out, like, do I use a native scheduler? Do I use a third-party scheduler? According to a lot of people, if you use Facebook natively, it supposedly gets better algorithm hits than if you use a third-party scheduler. I haven't personally tested that, so I can't speak to it. I try to post natively when I can, just because I think it makes more sense in the heat of things.
In general, whenever you post natively on a platform, it's going to get higher engagement than a third party. No platform wants you using a third-party service. So most of them, their algorithms are going to adjust it that way. But Jennifer said by scheduling, I mean, post every day on Facebook, go live once a week.
Gotcha.
So what I would say with this is you want a couple things. You definitely want to test things out, and you want to, just like with other content, you want to make sure what you're doing is moving somebody to the next step in their customer journey. So like what I would do, and you were talking about it, like engagement, whenever you post a piece of content, you want to say, what is my intention with this content? What is this going to do for me? And what do I want people to do at the end of this, right? So every piece of content should have a specific purpose and then some sort of a call to action. And what you then want to be doing is saying, okay, well, I believe that if I go live once a day on Facebook, that by this time, I can get so many viewers, and then those viewers will go to the next step, which is maybe booking a call, going to my website, whatever.
Yep.
And then you want to track that, and you give yourself a period of time, and at the end of it, you say, is this achieving the results that I'm looking for? If it is, great, I'm going to do more of it. If it's not, you say, well, do I tweak my strategy? Or maybe this isn't the right content platform for me. I'm going to try a different one.
Yep. Yeah, and I think, as you said, that intentionality is really where it comes in, because everyone out there talks about consistency. They talk about sharing all your stuff, which is great. Like, that is good. But if there's no intention behind it, not only are you wasting your time, but no one is seeing all that amazing content that you're putting out because there wasn't any intentionality behind it, and you may not even have people seeing your stuff. Like, I don't know how many times we posted in the free Facebook group, and it would be this amazing, like, thought out post with a ton of value, and it just nobody saw it because we didn't have the engagement in the free group, and it just wasn't getting out there. So I would definitely say kind of have that test in your mind of, I'm going to try this thing. I'm going to do it consistently for this amount of time, and then kind of taking a look back to see if that intentionality behind it kind of ended up the way that you wanted to. And then if it's not doing what you want, tweak it a little bit, maybe try it on a different platform. But don't just keep pumping out content just because everyone says you should have content all the time. Make sure that it is well worth your time, because it can be time consuming.
Yep. The other thing I'll say too, we do schedule and batch a bunch of content. For us, our main platform is the podcast.
Yep.
And from creating the podcast, we then get other content that comes from that, and that's scheduled ahead of time. But what I like to do is take inspiration from what happens every day and share that kind of real time. And that's just off the cuff as it comes up. So, for example, I'm reading the book High Performance Habits, and the first thing he talks about is clarity. That's the first thing I talk about with everybody. I'm like, look, if you're not clear on what you're trying to do, where your time's going, where your money's going, you're going to be in trouble. So if you guys know on my personal profile, I posted that up like an hour ago. It was inspiration from a book I had read. Oftentimes I'll look at coaching calls. Like today I had a coaching call with somebody who did a really good job of getting clients, but has a track record of once they get clients, they end up not servicing them well and losing them. So I'll have a post coming out later talking about, hey, it's great if you're good at sales and marketing, but if you can't actually fulfill on your clients, you're going to be in this endless cycle of bringing people in and then losing customers and having to bring new people in to replace them. Mm-hmm. So I like to look around at what am I learning, or what lessons can I share from everyday life that will then help people in my audience move to that next level, or have another lesson, or position me as more of an expert.
Yeah,
so
and I mean,
often.
He has like a vault of all of these things that he eventually
and every time
wants to talk about.
Well, and every time I create one of those, I store it and I make a note of where I posted it. So like I've got a giant list right now of just different topics. So I've got a handful of Facebook groups that I'm in, a handful of LinkedIn groups, and I'll just go through and say, I haven't posted in this group in a while. What do I want to talk about? And then let me go back to a piece of content that I've already created, so I'm not reinventing the wheel every time.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want to be really intentional, but you've got a ton of content ideas in your mind, there's no reason you can't go through and get all of those down and start writing. But I would say definitely, when you're posting, don't just pick randomly, like be intentional behind which posts you're posting and when, and kind of how you're moving people along. Are you reading Lisa's comment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like Facebook is kind of a black hole of good content, and keeping it on a website would be more of value. You could create a pin to it and get people on a list or something. Yeah, I think Facebook is becoming kind of a black hole of good content, especially because everyone is sharing value all of the time, and it becomes a little bit overwhelming for people that are in a lot of different Facebook groups, or that have a lot of friends that are entrepreneurs and they're just constantly seeing value. It makes it hard for these people to like stop, see the value, and actually implement on it. So I was just reading a book about just making sure that as you're moving people through the journey, you're not constantly throwing content at them. You're giving them some time to stop and take action on these things, or you're giving them like the tips or the tricks to, hey, here's how you can stop and take action on this thing that we just talked about. And then from there you move on to the next step. So,
yeah, well, I was going to say, and with that,
book?
I was going to say, Ariana was reading a book.
I was reading a book. Yay. It's actually my mentor's book, Jess Lorimer. It's Smart Leaders Sell. I'll see if I can grab the link and post it up here.
Yep. So the way I look at this is you definitely want somewhere where your content can live long-term. Social is going to be a short-term thing. And different platforms have different time frames. So for example, I'm seeing on LinkedIn, I'll put a post up there, and the time frame of it can be a long time. So there's stuff that I put up a couple weeks ago that's still getting likes and comments on it. Whereas with Facebook, it's like that day, and then it's probably gone. Maybe it's 2 days. So I always like to look for kind of your core content that you want to be forever. You're going to have that on Medium or on your website or somewhere else. But then you're going to take pieces of that and then put that on social, obviously directing them back to whatever the call to action is, whether it's getting them on your website or whatever that next step is.
I just wanted to jump back. I know the comment disappeared, but I kind of remember Lisa talked about, as a blogger, not always having intention behind the blog post, just putting content out to put content out. And I think that honestly would probably maybe help you be a little bit less stressed with the amount of content you have to put out if you're looking specifically at the blogging and saying, this is the intention behind this particular blog post, or this is the intention behind this week. And I'm going to put out a blog post based on this, and then I'm going to talk about this on Facebook because it relates back. So instead of just always having to put content out because that's what you've done or previously in your blogging, maybe looking at your content, what things you want to talk about, and being really intentional behind those blog posts so that hopefully it takes some of that stress and that like last minute having to write and get this stuff out. Oh, you found it already. Man, you are fast.
Well, so and part of that too, reuse stuff.
Yep.
Like, so for example, we put on 2 webinars before we closed the free group. Each of those has like 80 slides in there. So I'm taking screenshots of something there and then making just a quick post out of it and putting that up on social. So it doesn't always have to be new content. If you are clear on your customer journey, I mean, there's a million topics that we can create off of any of those cluster topics that we talked about. So if we're talking about getting clear, we can talk about how do you get clear on your money? How do you create a budget? How do you do a time audit? Like, there's just a million topics, and it doesn't take us much to take a snippet of something that we created that's a much longer format and just pull a quote out or pull a topic out from there. Well, and then we reference it back to the bigger thing.
And I think keeping track of it too, because oftentimes I'll go back and post something. I feel like I talk about it all the time, but there are always new people in your network and new people that are just becoming aware of you that maybe haven't gone back and looked at all of your old content.
Oh, most people haven't.
So there's no excuse me. So there's no reason you can't go back and reuse some of your stuff. Most people aren't going to remember exactly what you said anyways. So there's no reason you can't go back and repurpose some of your older content.
Most people don't see your content. Like, we put a poll up like a long time ago when we had our first podcast, and there was so many people that didn't even know we had a podcast. We were like posting about it every single week, every time a new episode came out. So trust me, most people are not seeing your content. And sometimes, like, we've had people reach out and say, you know what, I've heard you say that I got to validate my idea like 6 times, but it wasn't until the 7th time that I'm finally like, yeah, I got to validate my idea.
Yeah. Sometimes it happens. All right. I'm going to skip up to the next question.
Should we go back to the beginning, or who else do we got?
Go back to the beginning.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we answered everyone who was live. Megan.
Okay.
Organizing.
Okay, so she says, I can't keep track of getting kids places, organizing, cleaning house, etc. Need help. I have nothing helping me, and I basically feel like I put out fires all day. And so
this was based off of Lisa's post with her messy desk and just kind of being overwhelmed with all of the crazy stuff going on. And Megan doesn't homeschool and said, can't even imagine homeschooling because I can't keep track of everything right now as it is. My first thing was going to be asking about your calendar, because that is our lifeblood, saving grace, whatever you want to call it. And we would not survive without the calendar.
Nope.
And I noticed you said like getting kids places and organizing and cleaning. The whole getting kids places, that definitely goes right on the calendar. We do the Google Calendar. So it allows us to make different calendars.
This is our entire life. Everything we do, you see all the different colors? Every color is for something different.
Yep. So we have created different calendars within and shared them because there's 2 of us, obviously. Tom has his own calendar. I have my own calendar. Each kid has their own calendar. We have a family calendar, which is when we do stuff together. Each business has its own calendar. The online business actually has 3 calendars because there's one for us together and then one for each of us separately. What else am I missing? I feel like there's more. There's time block calendars so that if we need a specific, we want to see it visually that we're blocking out time for something, but we don't want we don't want people to be able to book on Calendly. We'll just do like a time block. So it does take a little bit to get used to, but Google makes it really, really easy for you to go in, create a new calendar, color code that calendar, give it a name. So if you give each of the kids their own calendar and then you are putting in where they need to be at certain times or if they need to be driven, if you and your husband are doing the driving separately, you each get a calendar. So it says, Mom drives to so-and-so, Dad drives so-and-so over here. That way, you have just that nice visual, everything is in one place to keep track of, hey, everyone in the family is going all these different places. So now we all know and you're aware. Then the next thing you can start doing is fitting in those in-between times. So if you want to schedule specifically to clean something in the house, put it on the calendar. If you want to schedule specifically to work on the business, you can put it on the calendar. You can block out those times. If you're good at, well, most parents are good at multitasking, but if you are doing stuff in your business, but you can also kind of be taking 5 minutes to do stuff around the house, I often do laundry that way where I'm throwing in the laundry, I get all the stuff down there, and then just every half hour to an hour, I pause my work, go down and do the new load, come back and work.
Well, and with that, so I know, I don't think Nick's on, but Nick is a huge Pomodoro fan. That's a great
Angela
way to do it.
Angela's here.
Too?
She just found Pomodoros.
All right,
loves
perfect.
them.
So, yeah, so if you're doing Pomodoros, which are basically, you've got a block of time, usually 25 minutes or 50 minutes where you're focused on work, then you got a 5 or 10 minute break in between. Those in-between times are great for, I mean, like, I'll come up, I'll get water, I'll load the dishwasher, like, you know, doing laundry, those types of things that can then run while you're out back to work.
Yep.
So we talked about the calendar, and when we introduce that to most people, what they say is like, oh my gosh, when am I going to be able to actually figure that out? So the second thing that I would say, and this is really key for us, carve out time every single week to do this planning. Because, like, you know, we're pretty good with it now, but we, like before when we were very inconsistent, we could tell the weeks when we took an hour to reflect and then plan the next week and the weeks we didn't.
Yeah.
Because the weeks that we didn't take the time, the next week was chaos.
Yeah.
The weeks where we took an hour and we said, all right, let's reflect what went well and what didn't go well this week. What things do we want to change? And then let's plan the next week. So we would pull the calendar up and be like, all right, what do you got going on? Let's block your time out. What do our kids have going on? What do I have going on? And then, as Ariana said, we would fit the business in between that. By taking an hour every week to do that, you're now going to be more prepared. Like we were talking about clarity earlier, you're going to have clarity. What is it that we need to do next week? What things are happening at specific times? What are you doing? What am I doing? And it just makes everything else so much easier. The other piece of that is if you can get into routines, that helps a lot too.
Yep.
So for example, we have 2 kids. One goes to school, one goes to daycare. One of our routines is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I take our son to daycare. Ariana puts our daughter on the bus. Then Tuesday, Thursday, we switch. So we know that so that we're not having to think about it. It's just, you know, now a habit.
Yep.
So the more that you can create those routines, same thing, like if you carve that hour every week, if that becomes a routine and you're always doing it, now it's less you got to think about, but it's going to make your week so much easier.
Yeah, and one of our routines was to actually take the cleaning of the house and make that a routine. So we take time, and it's usually on the weekends if we don't have a ton going on. And I know Christy's not on here, otherwise she would tell us to hire a housekeeper already. But we have now incorporated cleaning into something that we do every weekend. The kids know this, so they help us immediately. Mommy's got a vacuum. Let's get all of the stuff off the floor and put away. And then we've also prioritized what type of cleaning and organizing is important to us and what things don't really matter so much if we've got too much going on during the week. So obviously keeping the kitchen clean, keeping the bathroom clean, and then keeping our living area clean, top priority. Kids' bedroom, kids' playroom, as long as they can walk around in there without falling on their face, I'm okay with it. You know, people aren't coming to our house to see what the kids' bedrooms look like. And honestly, that's their own responsibility. So if they want a clean room, they can go in and clean it. Same thing with our bedroom. You know, it's looking at where are your priorities now and what things would you be okay with maybe letting go of so that you can really focus on those important things.
Yep. Naja made a great point. So planning for the next week, it's important to be flexible with that. And so what we do is what we put on the calendar is basically this thing has to be done at this specific time. So that's the way you want to use your calendar. When something has to be done at that time, you put it on the calendar. If there's things you want to be done, but they don't have to happen in a specific time, those are things that you put on your to-do list, you put in Trello or Asana, or you put in your journal, and you're prioritizing those. And then you're going to have a focus, like this week, this is what I want to achieve. But then you're really going to just go in order of priority. Because here's the thing, you're never going to be able to know how much you can get done every week. Sometimes life comes up, different things happen.
Especially with kids.
Yeah, but if you go through and say, okay, well, I had 10 things on my list and I got the 8 most important things done, great. The other 2 shift to next week. So, but what tends to happen if you don't do planning is that you're all over the place. You might maybe you get 8 things done, but what if they were all the lowest priority and you didn't get the most important thing done?
Yeah. And it adds, I mean, I think the mental stress is a lot too when you're constantly feeling like you've got a million things on your to-do list and you aren't getting any of them done, or you're not organized in how you're getting them done. That just adds guilt, it adds the mental stress, it just adds, and it adds to your overall exhaustion, which is just constant because you're in that never-ending cycle. So if you can, as Tom said, use a piece of paper, a journal, Asana, Trello, whatever you want to do to keep track of your priority tasks, make sure that you're doing that weekly. And it's going to take a little while to get used to doing, but if you can continue doing that, it's really going to lower that kind of burden of, holy crap, there's 100 tabs open up here and I feel like I'm all over the place, to, all right, I've got my calendar. I know when things that need to be happened at a certain time. I know when those are, and then I know what my other tasks are that I need to complete for the week.
I was going to say, and Angela just said, so I like to do it nightly. I look at my list, create, move items, and I'm ready for the next day. So that's the other thing. The weekly is kind of planning the focus for the week. Then what we do, and by the way, this is going to come out in an action plan soon. We're just prioritizing all of these, like we said. But then what we like to do daily is a daily huddle, a daily sync, whatever you want to call it. For a while, we were calling it sync up and drink up.
Yep.
We'd each have our caffeine, and then we'd sync up on the day. And we like to limit these to 15 minutes or less. And there's a couple basic things we do. We say, all right, what did we each complete yesterday that we need to share with each other, or their wins, or we need awareness to?
Yep.
Then we say, all right, what's the focus for today? What's the top priority action that I need to get done? And then what else is on my plate that I would like to get done? So that way we're on the same page with kind of where the focuses are. And if we need to adjust, we can have that conversation right in the morning. We then both know what we're doing that day. And the final thing we look at is, okay, is there anything that's in your way, or is there anything that you need from me or from somebody else?
Yep.
That way, the things that would come up during the day that might throw it off, we take care of ahead of time. So by having the weekly focus on, I know what I'm focusing on this week, and then daily, you want to have that commitment to, here's what I'm committing to getting done that day.
Yep.
Make sense?
All right. I don't know if Megan's live, so
okay.
Just as you're watching this, let us know if that makes sense, or if you need anything clarified.
The one other thing that I would recommend, Megan, the one other thing that I'd recommend is going through the time audit action plan.
Yep.
Because what this is going to allow you to do is to figure out where does your time really get spent, and then to be able to make adjustments based on how you want your time to be spent going forward. And I'm testing out a couple different tools right now. I think I showed some of you guys a Rescue Time that basically automatically tracks all of my activity on my computer. So not only did I do the time audit, and I do it, pretty often, but now I've got my computer telling me where I'm spending time. And this is a way that I can look at every week to say, all right, what do I got to get off my plate, or what do I got to stop doing so that I can do more of what I need to be doing?
Yeah, love a good time on it. All right, Megan's second question is about her welcome sequence. Should I be directing people to my big ticket item as a solution to all of their problems, or my smaller tripwire item that will just get them to be a buyer? There's a couple different thoughts on this one. One of them is you can test that out and see which way you want to go with it. You can have a separate, it depends on what email provider you're looking for. Some of them allow you to do split tests. Some of them may not, but you could take certain lengths of time and test each of those out.
Yep. So even before we get to that, the first thing I would say, and you guys are going to kill me because there's certain words that I just say over and over again, and customer journey is one that we're going to hear all the time. Because what I want you to think about is, if you think about that customer journey, how did that person become aware of you? And then I'm assuming this is an email list. How did they get on your email list? And what were they thinking at the time they joined? What was it that enticed them? What were they looking to get out of it? And when they opted into your email list, they were opting in for a certain solution that you were offering, right? Whatever you were offering, they said, I need that, so let me give my email so I can get it. Once you gave them that solution, what you want to be thinking about is, what's the next thing they need, right? Like, because usually when you give them that opt-in, it's going to solve a specific problem. And every time you solve somebody's problem, there's another problem lurking, right? So what you want to think about is, what is it that they need next, and then offer that. Once you do that, now you can do what Ariana was talking about and say, okay, well, I know what they need next. Do I offer my big program or do I offer the small thing? You can split test those.
Yeah.
Traditionally, you're going to offer the small thing and then offer them the next thing after that. But there might be some cases where it makes sense or people respond to the bigger program.
Well, and I think it depends on the differences in price points too, because, you know, if you're talking about one of your products and it's the $3 tripwire item, and then your larger big ticket item is still within $100 price point, that's not as high as some people's high ticket items. So you potentially might have people that jump in for that bigger item right away. But I think it is going to depend a little bit on your customer journey, and then what is it that people are signing up for, and what are they getting when they first sign up for your email list? Like, what is in that welcome sequence, and then what is the next logical step for them to take?
Yep. And the other thing that we've been doing a lot more lately that I think is smart for everybody is to say, okay, if they say yes to this, what is the next thing I offer them? And if they say no, what is the next thing I offer them? Because what will happen a lot of times is you may just present one offer. Somebody may say no, and then you're like, okay, well, that's done. But like every single thing we have, here's the thing that we're going to offer them next if they say yes, and here's the thing that we're going to offer them if they say no. So we do even this with coaching. So with coaching, when I talk to somebody, I might have a core package that I think is going to be good for them. So I'll offer it to them.
Mm-hmm.
If they say no, I'll kind of dive in, understand why, and I'll say, okay, I understand price may be an issue at this point. We've got this other offer that maybe you don't get as much, but it's cheaper. Is that something that you might be interested in? So you can do the same thing. Like we actually do this with Lifestyle Builders with our Plan with Purpose course. So it's a free opt-in. Then right away, we present people with Lifestyle Builders, but we present the yearly option, which is $490. Ideally, we want people to take that because we want people to commit for a year. But if somebody goes to leave, then we say, hey, wait, maybe $490 is too much, but you can actually get started today for $49. So now that's kind of the downsell if somebody says no. But now if somebody buys that and they say, yes, I want to be a lifestyle builder for a year, we then say, okay, great. Now you're a lifestyle builder. Hey, did you know that you can actually get some coaching calls with this too if you want to become a VIP? So then they can say yes or no to that. So this is really where it comes back to understanding your customer journey and then mapping everything you do to where people are at and then what they're going to need next.
Yeah. And I mean, even within your welcome sequence, you could do that within your email provider if they allow you to filter out who gets what emails based on what they do. So if in your welcome sequence you offer the Tripwire product and somebody clicks on that link and continues on, they could immediately be added to a next sequence that's going to take them through to ordering your larger ticket item. And then if someone opens the email and doesn't click the link, you could filter that out into a different email and say, hey, I noticed that you weren't interested in this. What is it that I could help you with? Or even take it as like a market research type opportunity.
Absolutely.
So there are ways, again, depending on what email provider, I think most of them allow you to do like filtering with tags and some of that. So you could even start doing that now with your welcome sequence and kind of offering people different paths based on what they do with the email.
Are you frustrated by a lack of momentum in your business? Do you want real-time guidance and support from seasoned entrepreneurs who really care about your results? If you're nodding your head or awkwardly shouting yes in public somewhere, then we invite you to join Lifestyle Builders, a mentorship program designed to meet you where you are and give you strategic and custom guidance so you can build the business you need for the life you crave. You can find out more at joinlifestylebuilders.com.
Your life, your business, your way. Join Family Entrepreneur Life. Join Family Entrepreneur Life.